All right. Okay. So welcome to the Special Ed Tech Center's AT Chatter series. And this chatter is about core vocabulary in the classroom setting. And these AT chatters are just a fun way for us to share ideas and get to talk to our colleagues about what we're doing and ask questions about what we're doing. So we're talking about core vocabulary in the classroom and kind of along the lines of how are we implementing, how are we supporting teachers and other professionals. So let's see, let me get to now I'm going to share my screen. Let's go to the questions. Okay, so I just came up with a few questions. How do you support your staff and yourself with core vocabulary in the classroom? What materials are you using? Oops, sorry. I'm kind of curious about, who is modeling or doing instruction. If people are doing instruction, what does it look like? Is everyone in the classroom modeling? Is it like the SLP stepping up? What are some barriers that we're seeing with doing that and what's working well? So, but Sarah, since I invited you specifically to talk about your experience in Bellevue, just anything that you want to share with us. It doesn't have to follow these questions, but if you want to kind of take us through what you've been doing at your school.
Sure. So in our district, I work for Bellevue School District. About 5 years ago, we formed an AAC group, which was just kind of a small subgroup out of our larger SLP group of whoever was interested in AAC specifically. And then I think it was 2.5 or 3 years ago, we started talking a lot about core vocabulary and decided we wanted to come up with kind of a board or a set of symbols that was a universal set of core symbols that we could implement across the district as just a starting place, and to get it up in a lot of the classrooms, especially our self-contained classrooms, our inclusion classrooms, our preschool classrooms, that kind of thing. And so, I just want to jump in quickly, though, to say that this isn't for all students. Of course, we still individualize for the kiddos who need, certain specialized systems and that kind of thing. But just as a starting system for kiddos that are new or, also kiddos who are unidentified or speak English as a second language. So as part of our AAC subgroup, this was before I was in the AT role, we came up with a board. I can kind of show you. I don't know if you can see it, but
yeah,
there's 56 symbols. And so we just picked, some pronouns, some verbs, some prepositions and descriptors, that kind of thing. And we all agreed upon as a group which words we wanted to have on it and where we wanted to put them. And, there's some controversy with that. And, we had members or representatives from all the different grade levels. So someone from preschool and elementary, middle school, high school transition, that kind of thing. So that took us a while to come up and agree upon those words. And then last year, I stepped into this role as an AT specialist. And so it was my personal mission to get these boards kind of out there for everybody. So started off in October by training the SLPs. And so I think I did like a 4-hour training on what is core vocabulary, just to make sure everyone knew what it was. What is descriptive teaching? What is aided language stimulation? All that kind of thing. So I started with the SLP group, and then through the year just started training, more people in the district. So special ed teachers, I did a training for OTs and PTs, and then different paraeducator groups and things like that as it came up.
Sarah,
so
can I ask you a question about it?
Yeah.
So going back to your board, how did you guys decide? I mean, you had a group of, it's nice you had all different levels of, what did you guys look at a certain board that you guys really liked, or how did you decide? Because I know that sometimes that's tricky to say, here's something we know of, from Project Core or something, but people want certain things.
Yeah, it is. It's very tricky, and that's why it took so long. I think we started with looking at I forget, maybe the 7x11 grid and Proloquo to Go. That's an app that's used pretty widely in our district. So we started by looking at the symbols that were used on that board, and then just took opinions from people on which ones should be on there, which ones should not.
Mm-hmm. And then with your training, is it just you doing the training, or how is it working? Like,
it depends on the SLP and how comfortable they are. So it started with just me, and then throughout the year, as people felt more comfortable, other SLPs began training their staff, and sometimes I'm called in to help out with that too. But I'm really trying to empower other SLPs specifically in our district to start to lead these trainings too.
Nice. Okay, thanks. Sorry. So you were talking about the trainings.
Okay, so, training, building capacity, and then getting the boards into the hands of people. So I put them all up on a shared space in our OneNote that we have, in our Teams page. And then this last summer, I requested a project agreement, and my supervisor was able to get that for me. So it gave me 15 hours and all of the materials to be able to make large core boards. So they're
nice.
2 feet by 3 feet or something like that. I made 10 that were picture pointing boards and 10 that were with removable symbols. And so I made that this summer, and then kind of dispersed those as they were requested from people at the start of the school year. So it was kind of a first come, first serve. And of course, 20 was not enough. And so then I had a second project agreement. Yeah, it was good. So I did 10 more this fall, and those went quickly too. But again, I'm trying to empower people to write their own grants or to seek funding to be able to make their own boards as well for their school. So like at my building this year, I'm an SLP again at Enetai, which is an inclusion school. This is the first year they're running or starting this continuum of service at this building. And so in this building, I applied for a Bellevue Schools Foundation grant, and we're in the process right now. It finally was funded, it takes so long, but we're making 10 boards just for this school. And then I also got some additional funding from our PTSA, and just recently had 5 outdoor, like durable core boards made with some additional fringe vocabulary and some additional core vocabulary related to playground play.
Oh, nice.
So so we just got that order in. So hopefully in the next month, we'll have 10 additional large boards here, and then 5. I think we're going to start with maybe 2 or 3 and have a couple for backup out on the playgrounds in preschool and elementary.
Nice. Do you have like Paraeducator Support or someone to help with like making? I know like the time is hard.
The time is really hard. So I have another SLP who works with me here. So so far it's just been me and her making them, and we're both happy to do it. But I know there are some paras who could probably help, but we haven't requested them to help.
Yeah, that's nice. We have a special group of a few people who like are volunteers, like former educators who will like cut laminated things, and
that's so nice. Yeah, because that is the part that takes a long time. So, depending on the SLP in the building, some people are willing to put in that time and do it at home, and other people, they don't want to. So that can be, skipping ahead to your question 5, that can be one of the barriers, is just how do you get the materials? How do you get the boards there? Or no, question 4, I guess. And so that's why I initiated the project agreement at the end of last school year, because I recognized that was a barrier, was just getting the board there. And so, once people have the board and then have the training, then they're more likely to start to use them.
Yeah, the grant is a great way to do it.
Right, yeah.
You haven't started using them at in your school, your inclusion?
Oh, we have.
Oh, yeah,
we haven't started using the outdoor ones yet, but from the start of the year, we've been using primarily in the preschool and K1 for the gen ed classrooms. So we will both my colleague and I will go into the preschool classroom every other week, and this is a blended classroom, so it has I don't know the exact ratio, but a percentage of special needs kids and then a percentage of gen ed kids, and we'll lead a whole group circle lesson using the large core board, usually based around some sort of story, and then some movement activity or song, about 30 to 40 minutes. And then we team with our OT in the building, and she helps us lead a small group lesson that's tied to our circle. So we'll use the core boards, and I pass out copies of the core boards to all the kids, regardless of if they're gen ed or special ed or whatever. And they kind of follow along and work on sentence building and that kind of thing while we read our stories.
Nice.
So we do that in the preschool. And then in K1, we kind of have picked a couple teachers so far to start with who have shown interest. And we're just starting with those teachers, and occasionally, haven't done it yet on a regular basis, but leading whole group lessons in the kindergarten gen ed class, and then my colleagues leading one in the first grade gen ed class. And again, working with those teachers who are interested and motivated and want to learn to use these core boards.
Yeah, that's a great way to start.
Yeah.
Get the people who are excited about it.
Right.
Do you envision them using the large core boards like for during instruction time, other than when you're there, do you think, or how?
It depends on the teacher. So I have one teacher, let me see, hang on one sec, let me grab something. So I have the kindergarten teacher that I work with. The student in her classroom is using Proloqua to Go, and there's only one student in there who's using a system. So I actually made the decision to make her large core board for that classroom look like the main page on her Proloqua to Go. And then I made low tech boards, and I kind of, modified it a little bit to add colors there and additional verbs, but for the most part, it mimics what her main page looks like.
Nice.
And then I made the large core board for that room to look like this, and I made copies for all the kids in the class.
Oh, nice.
And that teacher she has started to pick, she doesn't do it all day, but she'll pick like a lesson, maybe one a week or something, and attempts to use the large core board for the whole class, which is awesome.
That is awesome. So just like on a practical standpoint, when you make the one that you were showing us, like the one that looks like the Proloqua to Go, did you start with a screenshot, or how did you do that?
I started with a screenshot, and it was kind of a process, but I ended up putting the symbols into BoardMaker just because I felt like it was easier to create the layout to look like how I wanted. So the symbols are symbol sticks, and they're the same color system that's used in Proloqua to Go, but I actually created it within BoardMaker.
Yeah.
And then I sent that out to my district too. So anyone who had students who were using a similar layout could just use what I had made already and kind of modify it as needed.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Are you willing to share the resources that you've made so far?
Yeah, sure.
I think that would be awesome. I think that what we hear is, people not having the time to put something together, but they have ideas on implementation, but it's like, if it's going to take a year to figure out the board, then that all of it starts to seem undoable. And I'm wondering if there are steps of the process that, since you guys have kind of vetted resources at this point, where you kind of worked with your team and hashed it out and are implementing it now, and I wonder if others could benefit from the legwork.
Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be great. We can I can give you an email, and then we could maybe create a folder if you're fine with that.
Yeah, sure.
That's great. Just out of curiosity, so you have the one class where there's just the one student using a communication system. In the other classes, are there, like, how many students do you think are using systems?
At this school at Anatai, there really aren't that many, but we have a pretty large percentage of kiddos who are learning English as a second language or who have multiple languages at home. So that is one of the tricky things, is that, typically they'll just be, since they're integrated in their gen ed classes, it'll just be one student in each class as opposed to like a group of them. But I will say in the preschool though, I have, a handful of kiddos who are on my caseload in one classroom, although only one of them is using a device, but they all benefit from the picture support. Yeah. And it'd be great when a new year starts and new students come and it's all set up and
ready for whoever is there. So
yeah, absolutely.
that's great.
Hey, Sarah, this is Rose.
Hey, Rose.
I'm not sure where it is at Stevenson, but aren't they another school that's trying to implement this in a bigger way?
Yeah, they are also creating some outdoor areas with core vocabulary boards. And they have the large core boards up in all their preschool classrooms. And I think K1 too, but I'm not exactly sure. And that's our school our elementary school that started the continuum of service, I think 2 years ago. So as the rollout goes, it starts with kindergarten and then they add a grade level each year. So this year, I think they're at K1 too, with kiddos included into their gen ed classroom.
Okay. Oh, neat.
And the SLP there is one who is very willing to train her teachers and her paras, and she's very motivated. And
yeah.
So
awesome.
I went out to that building and worked with her last year and trained all of her paraeducators. And they were so excited about it. They were even asking to get boards in the lunchroom and, you know, at the time to get it outside before we even had started to do that yet. So all the paras were initiating it, which was pretty cool.
That is so cool. Yeah. Nice.
That is so awesome.
Yeah. I know that you need to probably leave soon to see students. Is that right?
I actually switched my schedule around so I can stay a little bit longer.
Okay, great. I was gonna see if there's any other questions that people have specifically for you about your program. And hi, Ingrid, I see that you've joined us. And if you have any questions, just feel free to shout out or type in the chat. What are you, I think you might have said this, but I know that like the outdoor boards are becoming kind of more popular. You see like on social media, a lot of the, yeah. What are you using for construction? What are you making them out of?
So what I'm doing personally for my building here at Enitai, and then we're going to start to distribute it, is Vistaprint. They often have like good promotional sales where you can get even like half off. So we'll do their outdoor banner with grommets and then just zip tie it to, you know, fences that have the holes that you can zip tie it to, but that's not always the case. So it kind of depends on the building and the layout of the outdoor space to find a good place. I know at Stevenson, the SLP there has, she's having her building create something specifically for this board. So they're actually building like a wooden structure to have the board go in. So hers is going to look a little bit different.
Wow.
But you know what, Sarah, that's a pretty affordable way to do things. I use Vistaprint as well, for lots of things. And, you know, it's nice to be able to pull it down and preserve it, you know, on off season versus a wood one that probably just stays there and then is exposed to the elements. And you know what I'm saying? So that's a really nice idea as far as affordable goes. You know,
right.
And,
I mean,
I think they have really good products. I mean, the quality. And you're right. You just go searching for Vistaprint codes and put them all in, and next thing you know, it's half off or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like it's a great way to do it. Good idea.
Yeah, I think we got some boards for like less than like $30-40. I mean, it's like pretty reasonable.
Yeah, I get them for a different role that I play as well, and it's a great idea.
Nice.
What about the general ed teacher buy-in? What have you seen?
That's tricky. So as I mentioned, we're kind of rolling out this continuum of service. So it really depends on the school. It depends on how much training they've had. It depends on the building culture. And there's a lot of variability